Get ready to find your recipe for a successful real estate lifestyle from America's top expert here at Greenlight REI with your host, Lance Edwards.
Hi, everyone. This is Lance Edwards, and welcome to this episode of Greenlight REI. This is where we teach you the recipes to the successful real estate lifestyle. And we've got a very special guest today. It's Mr. Chris Prefontaine, and Chris has got a really fascinating background, multifaceted when it comes to real estate, over 2 decades. I'm not sure he's willing to admit that. Actually, it says over 25 years in real estate, includes construction of over 100 single family and duplex homes. He's owned a franchise with Realty's executive. He's done $80 million in transactions. He's a big advocate of education and coaching, as I am as well. And he's got a great niche we're talking about to us today. And this is about lease purchasing, or finding first-time buyers or home buyers through lease purchase methods. And that's the niche of this real estate business we're talking about today. So, Chris, welcome to Greenlight REI.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, and always good to chat with you, Lance.
And you know, Chris, you're the biggest expert on Chris Prefontaine. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into real estate?
Yeah, so I'll do this without dating myself in the 2 decades, right? So in the early 90s, now just fast forward through, I actually heard, you'll get a kick out of this because I know you know of these tapes. I heard an old Earl Nightingale tape. I was literally driving to our family business, my father's business, and heard this tape. And he was talking about this gentleman in the Depression that would go around and talk to landowners and put signs on their lots, not pay for them, and then pre-sell them and then pay for everything. And so I said, that's a cool idea. I went home, and I'm going to date myself again because there was a tape, voice recorder, if you remember back then. And I set that up in my basement. That was my business. And I would go talk to owners, put a sign in their yard, and then I would talk to builders, and I would package a home package, pre-sell everything, build everything, and everybody got paid at the end. So it's pretty cool. But it came from one crazy little tape that I heard. We then transitioned into Realty Executives, as you mentioned, bought a franchise with one intent, Lance. I didn't want to be a realtor really per se. It's like I got my license. I bought it to build it and sell it. Everybody told me I couldn't. I sold it in 2000 to Coldwell Banker. And then from 2000 on, I've been coaching people in U.S. and Canada, and also doing rehabs and condominium conversions. That took us right to the debacle, though, 2008. Got my head beat in there. And that caused us to be where we are today with the total reengineering of the business, total reengineering. What we do today is all on terms, either lease purchase, as you said, owner financing, or subject to, always with no banks and no cash.
All right, so let's talk about that, because this is, as you know, it's probably the biggest question people always ask. I don't have the financial means to do this. So let's talk about terms. Explain terms for everyone. So when you're buying a property, what do you mean by terms?
Sure, and just so they get a comfort zone, it's okay. When I came out of the debacle, I wasn't like no income. I was like negative. I was in the red. So I had to. So terms means this. If we buy on lease purchase, we are simply making the payment directly to the seller's underlying mortgage, if there's an underlying mortgage. If we're doing owner financing, I know owner financing, there's a lot of ways to do it. To us, it means there's a free and clear property. We're making principal payments to the owner, principal only payments until some term agreed upon. And then, of course, subject to if there's existing financing in place.
All right. And is there any cash involved with these terms transactions? And if so, where does that come from?
No, we put $10 down as our standard agreement. It might be $100, but no, we don't do them. I had a room full of my students around the country recently at an event, and I said, raise your hand if you put up more than nobody put more than $500 up. You just don't have to, especially with the right circumstance with the seller, obviously. So no cash up. So let's talk about that. So you're looking for the right type of seller. How do you find these deals, Chris? Okay, so we find them with a lot of them come from for sale by owners and expireds, but we use 2 things to do that. We have VAs calling for sale by owners, but those usually take time, especially in a hot market. Everybody thinks they can sell their home, right? That's why they're a FSBO. On the expired front, I don't care what market you're in, those are either up or down. They're always great leads. We do some what we call slide broadcasts. You may be familiar with that, where we hit hundreds at a time with a voicemail, and we wait for the kind of the cream of the crop to call back. We then have a system we walk them through script-wise. But It's not just people think a lot of times, Lance, that it's desperate people. It's not. It's not always about price. It's usually about their situation. They got to move out of state, or they don't want to have two homes anymore. Elderly couple, maybe. We've had all kinds of things like that. And yeah, you get the stressful people too.
Well, let me address that, because I know one of the questions a lot of people say, well, why would somebody sell me their house for no cash? Why would they do this? Why? And I guess, how would you address, answer their question about always asking why? How would you?
I get asked all the time. I'll do one deal. Like, I'll throw one deal example on Bigger Pockets, and everybody says, "Oh, nobody would do that." Well, yeah, we do 5 or 10 a month. They do it. So I can think of some examples is the best way to do it. I always want to talk about what we do, not theory. So just off the top of my head, so we did one in Pennsylvania recently. Home was debt-free. He couldn't sell it for his list price with realtors, and fall was coming in our lovely area of the weather that we have. And he wanted to go to Texas with his family for Thanksgiving, period. This was last Thanksgiving. And so we paid him his price, but we did so with no money down and with monthly principal payments for, I think we did a 2-year deal on that, which is odd. We usually go longer. But he was happy because he could leave and the property was handled. We make monthly payments to him with a balloon in 2 years, but we're getting major principal pay down each month. So it's just a win-win. His attorney loved it. His accountant loved it. That's an example of definitely not stress. Now, there's the opposite. I had a woman who was moving to Florida, did a sandwich lease with her, whereby she said, look, I got divorced. I'm going to Florida. My realtor couldn't sell this. Just take care of the mortgage payments so my credit stays, and you can, pay off the mortgage in 3 or 4 years. Okay, so that was a stressful situation, win-win, but they're all different.
Right. Yeah, I was when I answer, I say, first of all, don't worry about it, but it's usually a stress release or a debt relief situation, or it's just some situation. But I just don't go wrapped around it. They're just out there. They're simply just out there.
Yeah.
All right. So you're finding these deals now. Let me ask you this: are you doing it all in your own backyard? You mentioned Pennsylvania. Or are you doing these around the country?
Okay, great question. So we have a family team. It's my son-in-law, Zach, my son, Nick, my daughter, Kayla, and then we have a great support staff. And we do Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut here. And then we have what we call associates, essentially kind of like quasi-partners, who we teach and do deals with in the trenches. So we're doing deals with them. We're calling the sellers and buyers with them. We're structuring deals with them. And that's all around the country. We've got about, 30 or so of those right now.
Excellent. All right, so now, for people that are just getting started, is this something that they can outsource? Can they get, you mentioned VAs a moment ago, can they get people to do some of this work for them?
Yeah, they can. A little caveat there, I'll say, I hate to just make it sound so fluffy and easy. I don't want to ever do that. So yes, you can outsource a whole bunch of this stuff that we do, and the kids have done a great job doing that, but I don't want anyone to get the impression that this is like hands-off, passive. I can, crank up $1 million business without working. There's going to be some legwork involved in the beginning. But yeah, there's some really cool automation now, obviously, with the technology. We started new processes where we don't even go to the home now. We have appraisers and home inspectors go. So it's getting real streamlined, but you got to lay the groundwork and lay the foundation first.
You actually got to do something. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, you got to work.
All right. So you're finding these properties, you're getting control of them either through lease purchase, owner finance, subject to. All right. So then what is the exit strategy with those houses?
Yeah, good progression. So we always sell on rent to own. So here's the big thing with us that I want to bring out, because you can go online right now, as you know, and find people who do these different ways. We are real set on making sure we set the buyer up for a success path. So we pre-screen them. Some of the gentlemen that we use, Paul Ritter with credit repair and credit enhancement. And then we also have them talk to American Financial. He specialized in 18 years in lease purchase. He knows how to get them to the end zone. And we make sure there's a mortgage ready date that fits within the terms of our lease purchase with our seller. And that ensures their success. Now, that doesn't mean we have a 100% success rate, 100%. That'd be crazy. But we do have like 92, 93% success rate, which is huge in the industry. It's because we don't let them in unless we get that mortgage ready plan. And of course, why do we have that 5 to 8% fallout maybe still? Well, people have life events. They get divorced, they lose their jobs, they go out of state. So those are the only ones that don't come through. But that's usually the only reason it's a life event. So we sell on rent to own. In the terms usually 2 to 5 years, and we make sure we get them to the finish line.
So on a rent to own, they have an option to buy the property at a specified price, and they have time to get their credit cleaned up. Meantime, of course, they're paying you rent. So what are the terms? Are they putting a deposit up? And if so, how much deposit are they putting up as an example?
Yeah, so this is a good way to explain the whole thing too. So we create 3 paydays, I call it in the book. We create a payday 1 where they're putting a non-refundable deposit up. I've learned the hard way, Lance, I'm sure you did too, that if they don't, you got a glorified renter and you got a headache. So you got to get enough up front. What is enough? We, on our training videos, because they got to go through their own training and see if it's a fit for them, it says 3 to 10%. If they put 3, they're going to have a plan with us to put more up. Tax returns. We had a state trooper recently have retroactive sergeant pay, so he scheduled it. They're going to get themselves to 7 or 10 before the term is up. Look, it ensures they're going to have a better loan. It ensures their success. It also ensures us that they're vested in the property. So it's a win-win-win. The payday 2 we create is the spread between what we're paying the seller or the mortgage company and what they're paying us. It's usually $200 or $300. And then the back end's usually a nice payday 2, like somewhere around 30, 35. So we create, right now, our average is just under 80 grand per deal with all 3 paydays.
All right. This is a key point, because for everybody that's out there wholesaling these properties, just flipping, they're giving up on payday 2 and 3, aren't they?
They sure are. And I'm not, look, I have a lot of great people that do that at a great level on my podcast. I mean, they do 400 or 500 deals, but I just don't understand why you'd want to work that hard and spin that many plates for small checks when you can create 3 paydays per deal. And then, oh, by the way, if you get a seller that kind of wants to keep all that profit, okay, do an assignment. It's no big deal. You get 1 payday, but for the most part, we get 3 paydays.
Yeah, and I was something else would point out, if Chris, maybe speak to this, of course, when you wholesale, you're paying the highest tax rate possible. You hold that property for 12 months and then sell it. Now you're long-term capital gains. It's the lowest tax rate.
I try to tell all the rehabbers this. It's crazy.
Yes. All right. So you got this. You're finding them nothing. You're using none of your own cash, none of your own financial resources. You're selling them on rent to own, making home buyers out of people, getting their credit approved, getting your 3 paydays. So let me ask you this. For someone getting started, what do you see as the biggest thing? Someone that's new to real estate, want to get started. What's the biggest thing that you see, Chris, stands between someone actually getting started and doing this?
This might surprise you, but it's 2 things that just I get so frustrated with. One is mismanaged expectations, believe it or not, meaning I saw this video, I saw this person tell me I can make $1 million, and they get in, they don't do a deal in 90 days, and they're gone. It's a shame. So I've actually gotten so strict with this because I don't want that to happen to people. I say to them, if you can't commit to 3 years, you're kidding yourself. It's a business. And the exact analogy I give is if you and I were going to bring in investors and start a company, and we got them in our boardroom and we said, you know what, guys, thanks for the $2 million investment or whatever. We're going to give this a shot, Lance and I, for like 90 days. We'll see if it works. That's crazy. So mismanaged expectations is one. And the second one is really just the understanding that they have to grow, right? If they never did this before, they got to grow, and they got to grow into the skill sets and all that. And if they can handle those 2 things, they'll have a great time. You can't, it's the stuff works. It's just, will they stay on track? That makes sense.
Yeah, the stuff works. Yeah, the stuff works. Will you work it? I mean, that's work the system.
Yeah.
All right. So give us some success stories of some of your students. Talk about what you've been doing. What are some stories you can share from some of the people that you've been mentoring, Chris?
You know, so as soon as you said that, I got a bunch came to mind, but we have kind of a higher level people that are kind of aggressive at this. And we have a guy in Washington, D.C., Bill, and he'll love that I mentioned it. I thought DC might be a tough market, right? Because things are moving quick, and people might say, well, terms deals, then how would that happen? Because it's so transient and it's high price range, like 800 to 1.2. He's the highest paid associate we have right now. I mean, the highest earner. His first 6 months was a slow start, but he had some commercial background, commercial real estate. So then his next year, he's almost at a year now from that point. So 18 months total. He's just at under $1 million with all 3 paydays. He's done like 8 deals. And so his average is way higher than ours. He kicks our butt. He does way better than us. He's doing awesome. Then he's full-time. So now he's the only one full-time. So in fairness to the people listening that are part-time, Mike out in California is in a produce business. And to say he's busy, he just had a son, newborn. He commutes 12 hours a day. And from, I think it's May to October, forget it, because produce business. I mean, he just sells. He does calls on the way to work. He has an hour commute, and on the way back, and he's done 3 deals, a little over $250,000. And he's making a full-time transition in 2 months. And that's a cool story. That was his goal, and he's pulling that off. That's pretty neat.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So what distinguishes them from the others who aren't doing it? Let's go back to that. What do you think distinguishes them?
Mike came into this. I remember like it was yesterday. First, he said, "How come you're not charging more? This is like, if I stay with this is great." I said, "Thank you. I'll use that." And second, he said, "Look, this is a 3-year deal for me." So that was music to my ears, and actually where I got the 3-year thing that I preach now. So he just was in his head saying, "Whatever it takes, Chris, show me the ropes." And he did exactly what we told him to do. I mean, exactly. And so he's having success. It's not brain science, as you know. It's just following it and then coming back.
Are they smarter than everybody else?
No. Well, they don't want me to say that, but of course not. Of course not. You know what does help, though, if I think of all of them that are hitting it good, is discipline, as you know. I mean, that's life. But no, there's nothing special. It's the discipline, and that'll far trump anything else.
So for people listening right now, one of their fears is going to be, well, what if I make a mistake? So, Chris, how would you address that?
I would say this. I'm not so naive to think I'm the only person out there that can help them, right? So whether it's you or me or Ron, we both know Ron, other guys out there, great. Find someone that's doing what you want to do. If it's small apartments, obviously you. And then say, all right, then within that niche, do I relate to them? I mean, I'm pretty blunt. Some people don't relate to that. I go fast. Some people don't relate to that. So whoever it is, find them and then stay with them because they've made the errors, right? They've made them. You and I have made a lot of errors, hit a lot of speed bumps. So just stick with them, stick with their short tail and don't let go. And that's it. I find a mentor doing what you want to do, not did it 20, 30 years ago. And then hang on to them. Don't let go.
Yeah, and by the way, you got no cash in these. So what is your downside?
Well, there is some, right? If I've had some headaches and I write about them and I talk about them because we're an open book. I want them to know what goes on. But, you have the life event happen and people leave and things, and lead paint happened once to us and things like that. But, okay, so you build the business with payday 2, for example, put aside, not touching it. So you have a reserve and you don't go to bed at night every night thinking, I'm all set. If something happens, I have a cushion. I built it the right way.
That's part I love what you're saying, Chris, is that it's having the right expectations. It's not you're going to get this home study course or this book, put it on your pillow, and voila, there's $1 million, tomorrow morning. And it's working the system, and it's showing up every day for it. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times, and I did a big disservice. I did not mention your book up front. So tell us about your book, if you would.
Yeah, that's okay. It's on Amazon. It's a bestseller. It's called Real Estate on Your Terms. And then the subtitle is creating what I've talked about, the cash now, payday 1, the continuous cash, payday 2, and then the end wealth builder. So Real Estate on Your Terms. Look, I start with the story in the 2008 debacle. I open the book with that because I want them to know what happened, how to avoid that in the future. And then we go through all the steps, like the 9 steps of getting this done, this system done. And then there's a whole chapter on what can go wrong. Because again, it's not all about the fluff. You want to know everything.
Yeah.
And it's not, same as you said, you don't buy the book and that's your end all, but it's a nice adjunct to anything else you're studying.
So let's talk a little about the mindset, if you don't mind, because
Sure.
you had it. You were rolling. 2008 hits. Boom. As you said, you went from positive to negative income. How did what was your mindset at that time, and how did you address it that others could take a lessons from with regards to their own life or business?
Yeah, what we did, and I tell anyone to do this with any little speed bump or big speed bump like that and that is just look at what happened, right, and then yank all the lessons out of it. Our lessons were real obvious. We signed on personal notes. The properties went down by 2/3. That's a headache. We took loans out in our personal name. Headache. So all those headaches we just got rid of with this new system, meaning don't sign on that, don't take loans, don't do any of that. And the mindset is the same as I said. Latch on to someone that can be your sounding board. For me, it was several people at that time that kind of said, you can do it, stick with it for 10 years, do this. So it's just sticking with someone. I think that helps anyone's mindset. If you have the right sounding board, you're not kind of like in your own tent by yourself.
Perfect. Very good. Now, one of the other things that I see holding people back is this. In fact, this was my case, Chris, when I was getting started. My biggest fear getting started was the fear of getting on the phone and fear of embarrassment. What if someone realizes I'm actually new to this? What if someone asks me a question I can't answer? God, that would be so embarrassing. It actually paralyzed me for a year. So how would you address or speak to that for someone maybe having a similar concern?
This is huge. When you asked me obstacles, I should have thought of it. So thank you. Okay, so there's a couple things. I want to make sure that we can help these guys when they're on the phone, right? And I have a solution for that. But before they even get on the phone, I tell them, think of this. This might sound silly, but it's so simple. You go into a coffee shop and the waitress comes around. Do you want coffee? No. Do you want coffee? No. Do you want coffee? She doesn't cry when they say no. She just keeps looking for someone, right? It's the same thing. And these people never did business with you before. So there's nothing harmed. You don't do business with them now. So that's just a mindset. And then what we do is in the markets that they're allowed to record, some you are, some you're not without consent, we have them tape their calls and send them. It's a lot of time for us, but it's the most effective thing we do. We put the headset on, we listen to the call, and we literally type as we listen. We send it to the student. In the very next call, the cool thing is you'll hear those tweaks they put in their next call. It's such a cool thing to see. And then on top of that, we just released it actually. We have like 40 plus live seller calls that us, our students, and our VAs have done. And I tell them, just get in there, listen to that over and over and over. So those three things kind of, raise the confidence, as you can imagine.
That's fabulous. I got to share a quick story with you. Is that I was just interviewing one of my events, a 12-year-old.
Wow.
12-year-old getting on the phone, calling brokers using a script. And he got deal flow out of it. And so I asked him, I said, listen, what would you say to someone who's not older than 12, much older than 12, having fear of getting on that phone? He said, well, they can't come through the phone and do anything to you. It's the same analogy you have. You want coffee? No.
I love it. That's like amazing. That's the earliest I've heard. I think my son Nick started in junior in high school knocking pre-foreclosure doors, but I never heard 12.
So you started this was your son started that young?
Yeah, he was doing, we think back, we laugh, and my wife said, you actually had him doing that as we think back. But it was some rougher areas, and he was door knocking pre-foreclosure doors back then when you knew that was kind of the craze, So he was doing that, did, maybe 100 a week.
Oh, wow. So maybe we all take the advice of these young guys who just don't know any better. They just do it.
Blinders.
Just simply do it. Yeah, precisely. All right, so Chris, you've done a lot of deals. You're doing amazing deals. You're coaching people to success. If there was one bit of wisdom that you could pass on to someone getting started, there was that one nugget. Is it possible to shrink it down to one nugget? And I'll leave it to you if you want to do more. But what would you say to someone?
In addition to the mentor comment, because that is, I know that sounds redundant, but that is it. Success leaves clues, right? But in addition to that, yep. I guess this thought, and this goes in line with everything you and I talked about, and that is your income is never, I don't care what you're doing, never going to outpace the value and the skill set you have. It's not. So that's to say, if you land a deal by accident, it happens, and you have a windfall, you have $100,000 come in. Well, that's great, but you're not going to have a scalable business until this and the skill sets and everything runs with it. I had a mentor tell me that years ago. He said, you might have some ups, and it's going to come right back down to your skill level. So you got to constantly be learning and educating. It doesn't end, in my opinion, because real estate's always changing, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought.
Excellent. So what's on the horizon for Chris Prefontaine? What's your big? What keeps you motivated and getting up every day out of bed?
Two things we're doing with the team. We got a cool culture and value system that we're doing as we scale here. And so we've streamlined focus, and we're doing two things. We're maintaining our own deals, but we're getting more focused on the owner financing and the subject to, so we can control them better. Sandwich lease is great, but we're doing more and more where we can get the deed and control it. Second thing is with the students around the country, our goal is simple. We have, like I said, around 30 associates right now in the different states in the country. And as we fill those areas, there's sometimes more than one in a state. As we fill those areas, they're filled, and we're doing deals together. And that's kind of where we are for the next 5-year plan.
I can imagine that can be scaled quick. That must get you really excited.
And it's super fun because I get bored too easy. So you call the deal today, someone calls, they're never the same, right? So that's what's cool. That's what gets me cranking every day.
Well, plus it makes you even better because if you want to learn it, teach it. And so the more you teach it, the more you're mastering your skill set.
No better way. Yeah, no better way. We have a call on Thursdays, right, with all these guys. And I say to them, look, everybody can participate here because I take notes. This is not a seminar. This is a mastermind. It's cool.
Right. That is so true. So now, Chris, you've got some tremendous educational resources of all types. And I know you're going to do something special for our listeners. You've got some some training you want to give them. And can you tell them a little about this training that you've got?
Yeah, we can stick it in the show notes maybe, but it's the Instant Investor Blueprint. It'll get them going. It's loaded with content on deals, examples actually. That's always cool to see, and how to structure these things that you and I just talked about. It'll let them take the kind of the next step for no charge, and just dig into that, and we'll make sure you get the right links to get in that for free.
Yeah, guys, we'll put it on the show notes so you can get this training for free, and certainly avail yourself of that. And also give out your book again. What's the title of your book, which they can get on Amazon? Yeah,
Real Estate on Your Terms. If they want to email us, Lance, you can stick the email in the show notes. I'll mail it to them for free.
Oh, super! That's even better. Okay, so got a free book coming your way. We'll get that on the show notes as well. How to get access to so you get the other training is a webinar training. Is that right?
Yep, I'll make sure they have the direct link to that, no charge, and we'll get the book out to them if we can get that on the notes somehow.
We'll do that. We'll take care of that. All right. So, you've done so much cool stuff, and what I really appreciate, Chris, is obviously you're in the trenches doing this, and obviously you care about your clients, your students, and helping them get there. I mean, the advice you're giving them, I think, is spot on. So, is there any final comments, final remarks you would have to someone that's looking to get started and looking to scale?
Well, I would just say you can do it, and don't think it's your market. You, as you said, are they smarter? It's not your market. It's not you. It's not. That's the only thing that's getting in your way is your thought on that, because you just got to do what I said earlier. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but latch on to someone you can relate to, latch on to someone that's doing it now, and don't look back for 3 years. Just don't look back no matter what. It's not an easy commitment, but do it for 3 years.
Oh, that's perfect. Chris, this has been really helpful. Everyone, this man's got really great advice. He's actually out there doing it. So avail Chris of, you got the free training. We'll get on the show notes. We're going to have also access. He'll send you his book for free. We'll get that posted. Chris, this has been really super. I want to thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your wisdom, what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate being on, and I love what you're doing, and have students coming your way that want to do the same. So I love it. It's good reciprocal.
Great. Thank you, Chris. All right, everyone. So the show notes, you can check out the show notes. Go to greenlightreinvesting.com, greenlightreinvesting.com. We'll have the show notes of this interview with Chris. We'll have all the resources available to you there, and you got other free stuff as well. So go check it out right now. And until the next session, you guys have a great, great lifestyle. Take care, everyone. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
You've been listening to The Expert with Lance Edwards. Let us now blatantly and shamelessly bribe you toward creating your own real estate lifestyle by offering you a whole bunch of free stuff. Go to greenlightreinvesting.com and get you some free stuff and this session's show notes.